Okay then. Hello everyone. Welcome to Chapter 15 of Vampire the Masquerade 20th Anniversary Edition. Hope you all are excited to be along for the ride, especially since we've got all the players here at the start. Woo! Now, about 2 hours ago, I uploaded a short video onto my channel encompassing some important details pertaining to this game. Basically, the coteries decided to skip a week of in-game time, and I gave them the skinny on major events their characters would have noticed, through contacts, personal observation, and so forth during that time. I won't be recapping it all here. I think that was a 19-minute read. But I did make sure that the notepad file to which all the information attached was made available through MediaFire. And so if you're interested in learning more about the downtime, I encourage you to take a peek. Of course, if you're going to be watching the live stream, it might be more difficult for you to take a peek right now. Whatever. Anyway, before we get started, players, would you mind giving everyone here a brief window into how your characters are doing and how they're feeling about recent events?
Sure, I'll go. Well, Byron, let's see. For those of you that know what went on, yeah, Marlena has the backing of the Anarchs now. I think that was even mentioned at the end of the last episode a little bit, or session. But, yeah, Byron's a little nonplussed by that. But Carter Vanderwegen has gained a lot of support, most of the Ventrue, and so he's definitely leaning that direction. But he doesn't know how the rest of the coterie is going to react, so he hasn't really brought it up publicly. Valentine is now the Keeper of Elysium, and so he went and visited with him and got his number again, so he's all stoked about that. And he's been looking for a new haven, one with exits. You know, you look for like an older building that would have been around in the 1920s, so it'd be like a speakeasy type thing. So it might have exits into other buildings or sewers or railways or whatever. But he hasn't moved in there yet because the weather's been kind of rotten in New York the past few days. So he's still staying with Evelyn. I think that pretty much sums it up for Byron anyway.
Well, Marcus has pretty much been in a state of utter depression since for like a while now. Mostly because pretty much all the shit that's happened with Kadir he could have stopped, so he kind of blames himself for this entire scenario that's going on here. Yeah, sure, maybe this all would have happened anyways, but Marcus could have stopped it. And so he's looking to his only one place of refuge. Inside of a bottle and inside of clubs. He mostly doesn't really care about politics now, unless someone in his coterie makes him care. Nominally, if you ask him about people he cares about, he probably cares more about Eugenio more than anything, because he's the guy who helped him realize that, yeah, I'm not crazy. Everything actually did happen.
It's definitely worth noting that the crazy weather has certainly interfered with Marcus's attempts to crawl inside a bottle. Many of his favorite dives have been experiencing problems of their own, from power failure to, supply failure and what have you. It's forced him to change his daily schedule, or rather nightly.
So yeah, he's not exactly in a good mood.
David's full of anticipation. He knows that everything is coming to a head right now, and he still hasn't picked who he wants to support as a candidate. On the one hand, he's basically already thrown in with Genie. On the other hand, he actually really likes Carter Vanderweyden, despite the fact that he's a traditionalist. And on yet another, it seems like a large faction of unified Nosferatu and all of the Anarchs are supporting Marlena, who, frankly, might be the best bet for Clan Nosferatu as a whole. So right now he's really been doing two things. Preparing escape routes for the entire coterie in case anything goes wrong, because he really doesn't trust them to prepare them for themselves. And he's been trying to get an audience with Marlena just so that he can get a read on her, aside from just her public speaking.
Joseph's, well, now, basically, it personally fully supporting Marlena, hasn't really brought that up to anyone, mostly because he doesn't know how well they'll take to it, and, how much they'll just, write him off as, completely anarch for it. Uh, with, the escape routes, he'll, one thing I think he'll have mentioned is, that he's got two ghouls and he will not abandon them. So if you're doing escape routes, that's great. But unless there's some way for him to get his ghouls out, he'll probably go down with the ship. As for something else, he's maybe a little bit supporting Van der Weyden as sort of an aside. Simply because of the whole Malkavian thing. Just, it'd be great to have a Malkavian prince.
Yes, yes, I'm sure everyone will appreciate Carter Van der Weyden the Malkavian. His first act of business will naturally be to reveal the fact that he is completely batshit insane. Become like one of those fish mouths.
My first act, Prince, is to ban pants.
Yeah, honestly, that's one of the big reasons that David's still uncertain about him. He doesn't know what his affliction is.
As I was saying, his first decree is ban pants.
It's the anti-pants affliction.
Yeah, it's almost a no-brainer for Byron, though. You guys could probably guess. Once Valentine came out in support of Carter, Valentine's pretty much the only powerful vampire left in the city that actually likes Byron at all, or at least makes a show of it. So he wants an ally somewhere if he can help it.
Certainly. Now, there's an event coming up. There is going to be another massive sort of rally, a meeting at Madison Square Garden, in a room that Marcus is familiar with because he's been in that before, that Marlena will be holding. That is at midnight. The sun sets at 6:19 p.m. Roughly 4 hours later, each of you awakens. There's no surprise steak waiting for you. No evil incendiary grenades or what have you to greet your night. However, three of you, Byron, Marcus, and Joseph, well, Marcus and Joseph end up having messages waiting for them. Byron can get it firsthand from Evelyn. The three of you have messages from Evelyn. A ghoul left a note at Astoria Estates, a request from Archon Theo Bell to come see him in the little private box inside Madison Square Garden at midnight. He wishes to speak with you.
Yeah, that's what Byron says too, pretty much.
Marcus's day, the night just got a lot worse. And it was already bad.
You got about like an hour and a half before you have to be there. It's like 10:09, 10:10 right now.
How drunk can I get in an hour? That was a semi-legitimate question.
That would
Well,
depend on, the person whose blood you imbibed and how drunk that person was.
Well, I mean, kidnap a person, force feed them alcohol, drain them dry.
Hey, it's like 10 on a Monday. You might be able to find
Rest
some
assured, if
blood.
you want to be missing all of your dexterity and intelligence dice going into the situation, you most certainly can.
I mean, Marcus is contemplating, I just need to get some alcohol in my system. Probably just going to go, fuck. He's not going to get any alcohol before going
He's
there.
going to go fuck? That's a bit of
Yes.
a waste of an hour.
That's gonna take 2 points of blood right there, just to flush up.
No, Mark is probably just going to hang around his haven or pack more because he's got to leave soon. I mean, doesn't he have to be out of the apartment by, like, tomorrow night?
Let's see. Today is the 30th. Your eviction is everything has to be cleared out by the 1st.
Yeah,
So you've got.
he'll spend an hour packing his shit, what little there is.
Is Marcus just planning on leaving like the furniture and stuff there? Like, nah, fuck it, Jackie can deal with it.
I mean, maybe.
How much furniture does Marcus even have?
Like a couch and a bed and like a nightstand and maybe a coffee table that's missing a leg. I like that coffee table, goddammit. It's got character.
So let's ask let's give you a layup question. What does Marcus use to assort his clothes?
A closet.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, it's not like a walk-in closet, but how many? I mean, how many clothes do you think Marcus has?
I don't know. He's a
Three
Toreador.
clothes.
Exactly 3 clothes. No. He doesn't own much clothing.
All right. The Malkavian did lick his shoes once.
Yes, and Marcus walked out the door. But yeah, he'll spend his hour packing up his shit and contemplating calling movers or getting Evelyn to call movers for him because no one's going to answer him at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, Byron is going to try to watch the news and just say fuck every 5 minutes. He's not really going to drive any information or enjoyment out of it, and he's going to leave with enough time to get to the garden and blush up before entering. That's pretty much it.
Well, let's see. In regards to news, of course, there is still some casual interest in the absurd weather that is quite abnormal that has been striking the New York City metropolitan area, and how emergency vehicles are naturally continuing to, they're working 24/7 to shovel snow out into the East River and into the sea to try to clear off all of the roads because 4 feet of snow fell. And, the weather update. It's not as cold as it was whenever the blizzard struck, but it's still in the single digits. It's not a concern for a vampire, but, humans, not having a good day. Power's out in places, cables out in others. The concrete jungle hasn't stopped, but it's definitely been slowed.
And what's Joseph doing?
Pretty much just sitting there until he's got to go. I mean, he's not too panicky, not too freaked out at the moment.
And, David, for your part, your schedule can be as normal as you want. You do not have a direct request from Archon Theo Bell to show up. You might not even know that the others are being called to show up here.
He probably doesn't. Not
Yeah.
unless someone calls him.
No, it doesn't sound like they're calling each other or anything about it, so, David's clear.
And did he manage to figure out a way to meet up with Marlena one-on-one, or at least face-to-face?
It's possible that he might be able to have it be organized after the meeting at Madison Square Garden, which will be taking place at midnight. A big sort of rally.
Cool, so he'll probably try and swing by around midnight just to check it all out.
Wait, Evelyn didn't call David at all?
No.
Oh, well, if I misheard it. I thought that she had called everyone except for Byron. Well, Byron,
no,
I guess,
just called Marcus and Joseph, the two people who the message were for, and told you face to face. You three are the ones who the Archon Theobel asked for around midnight.
huh. Well, I will, in that case, I will have given David a call and said that the three of us have been asked to go see Theo Bell, but he was not, David was not asked for by name, so his call.
Then David's not going to impose on the Archon. He's a goddamn Archon. If he had wanted him there, he would have asked by name.
I'm the goddamn Archon!
What? It's true.
No, I meant that's the Byron the answer was expecting. That's the answer Byron was expecting.
But yeah, Mark's going to leave and make his way to Madison Square Garden with enough time to make it there.
Okay.
I mean, are like the sub still running?
Yeah, you could manage to get your way to Manhattan, and certainly the very reliable Dragon Metro Cab Company is still managing to make things work. As a matter of fact, it's really the only major transportation system that is seems to have been relatively unfazed by the disasters. They make it happen.
I'm gonna take the sub.
Okay.
Mind you, I'm not gonna go out there conspicuous, wearing a tank top and like shorts to Madison Square Garden. I'm gonna wear a jacket and actually look like I'm cold.
It's fair, and certainly the pale skin will do wonders for. Man, he really looks fucking cold. And I assume Byron ends up making his little sweet Ventrue way there, and Joseph, who's the chauffeur today?
Brain.
Okay. And Joseph makes his way over there. And David's sort of going independently. He'll end up making his way over there too, a bit separate from the others.
Yeah, David's default method of going across town is to go invisibly on the subway.
Yeah. Well, certainly by a curious enough coincidence, it'll just so happen that Marcus and Byron and Joseph will all get to Madison Square Garden and be at the front of it at roughly the same time.
What time is it? 11:45 or 11:50?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, Mark's gonna head straight to the press box. He's not even going to look at the party that Marlena's probably throwing soon.
Okay.
Yeah, since there's a vampire event, Byron's not going to bother to blush up. He'll just follow Marcus in.
The Elysium security force is definitely out and organized, and no humans do appear to be inside at all. Which, for an amazing, massive metropolitan area like New York City is, it's a testament to the power of vampires.
Yeah, Joseph will follow them quietly.
All right, your trip through the interior of Madison Square Garden goes without incident. You were recognized and merely nodded out by security as you end up making your passage. As it turns out, there are two rather capable-looking vampires who are flanking either side of the press box door. There's no kind event today. So really, the interior of it, and the arena in particular, is very dimly lit, as you all will step into the press box. Ta-da! You can arrange your tokens on the left, however you desire, or even slide yourself into a chair if you so wish. Entering the room, it has been reorganized quite considerably since the last time you all have appeared here. For starters, Theo Bell is the only one sitting, and the Archon looks much more different than you all have last seen him. He's not wearing his cap, or his sunglasses. His jacket is sort of been pushed off of his shoulders and is resting on the chair he's sitting in, and just leaving him clad in a dark t-shirt. His shotgun is resting against the back wall, because he's the fucking Archon, and he doesn't give a damn about Elysium. And, it certainly seems like, it's not like vampires can really age or show, like, wrinkles or signs of worry, but this has got to be the least thrilled and most frustrated that Marcus in particular has ever seen Archon Theo Bell. Pretty much harkening back to the Battle of New York frustrated, Marcus.
Marcus is getting more and more depressed as the moments go by, but continue.
The tables down there that are without like chairs semi-ringing them are strewn with all sorts of paper. Seems like some sort of like architect type paper where you have the protractors and rulers and what have you, and pens and pencils of an assortment. And Theo Bell's desk here is also covered with a flurry of papers and folders, which he is in the process of writing down one of them whenever he looks up and sees the three of you filter in. There ends up being the terse one word, sit. And it seems that all of you have managed to do just that. The nostrils flare. He looks towards the three of you individually, and then he sighs. How are the three of you doing?
Marcus is going to say very badly.
Byron was saying, better than some, about average, I guess.
Fine.
He nods along with that. Sets the pen down, puts a hand to his temples. So it seems that the request I made to ask you to look into Kadir has been postponed indefinitely. And from what I hear, recent events would even suggest that your interpretation of events was correct. Although Kadir has vanished, it seems. I asked the three of you here because, well, it was more a request from someone else. Although it could be considered to be a request of mine as well. It seems as if Theo's face looks even more pained with what he might be about to say next, which in this case it says, "We need your help."
Help with what?
He looks down at his hands and then looks up at Marcus and then looks at the door behind the three of you as it opens and someone walks in. The woman entering the room appears to be in her mid-20s, wearing a severe suit typical for the cold outwardness of the Tremere. Her dark brown hair is kept away from her face, and she has a smart pair of glasses, likely for cosmetic purposes, on her face. Her leather-gloved hands betray a quicksilvered nimbleness, and the icy gaze beyond the lenses on her face illustrate the withering and perhaps overbearing power of the Tremere. This is High Regent Iceling Sturbridge. None of you have ever met her. Not that your characters are familiar with Tremere anyway, but Genie over the course of time has ended up being the social face and front of Clan Tremere, particularly given his desire for the princedom. The other Tremere have taken a backseat approach, allowing Genie to speak for everyone in most circumstances. Clearly, this is an exception. Theo ends up saying, Iceling here asked me to call for the three of you. He ends up looking at the Tremere High Regent who has walked in, who is surveying the room with her icy cold eyes. You may have this situation. She walks forward a bit, actually ends up crossing the entire distance, turns around, sits on the Archon's desk.
What a cheeky bitch.
Byron is a little intimidated, yet oddly aroused.
Now that's intimidating.
Joseph's eyebrows are probably floating about a foot above his head, but other than that, he's trying to keep his face as straight as possible.
The High Regent ends up looking between the three of you and says, as you are aware, I am, of course, the High Regent. And then she ends up rotating her head between the three of you, starting from her left, Joseph Chung, Byron Rand, and Marcus Paulson. You three came to my attention along with your Nosferatu comrade, David Green, after you spoke with Eugenio some time ago in relation to the events that have transpired over the past 2 months for you. We are greatly interested in that of everyone here within the New York City metropolitan area, and indeed everyone we can even think of knowing for our side. You three, along with your ghoul friend Germaine Wallace, are the only ones to have ever seen the interior of Sevalod Cervini's domain, and furthermore, the only ones to have survived exposure there. As such, I have asked the Archon to bring you here in the interest of information. Eugenio, of course, has collected some facts of his own. What I'm more after is any sort of detail, whether it be broad or minute, that you can possibly recall in relation to your experience and endeavors traveling to Sevalod, being there with him, and leaving his realm. She even gestures a gloved hand towards the tables. As possible, if any of you are any sort of the drawing type, any details you could provide at all, whether jotting down or sketching them out, would be most useful. She frowns, as the Archon will agree. Having a situation where this fiend interferes with the development and the prosperity of this city is unacceptable. We have attempted in the past to deal with him, but to no avail, so we're going to There is a cold smile that appears. Apply ourselves more. To that end, as you are the only ones who survived the experience and endeavor, you are the best resources we have for any form of information at all concerning Sevalot.
Byron will say, yes, of course. Anything we can do to help. Do you need to, what do you know already about how to get down to Sevalod? Where should I begin?
She, the smile falters a bit and says, I would prefer it if you provided as much information as you could, regardless of however redundant it might seem. We like to ensure that we are properly prepared, particularly an example such as him.
Entirely understandable. Out of character, what skill would drawing be under? Crafts or something? I'm just wondering what the skill check on that would be, or if I have to do one.
It might be expression.
Could be an expression or
It's-
crafts.
Isn't
I'm not
it
gonna make you
performance?
do a. I'm not gonna make you do a skill check for it though.
How the entrance looks, and he will walk over and draw the spiral staircase and the elevator and down and draw creepy stuff on it that he remembers from there, and he will draw the mansion as well as the outside as well as he can remember it. And he will ask Joseph and Marcus if his recollection is correct as well. And then he will visibly shudder a little bit when he starts thinking about the insides. And he will describe the atrium and the room where they did most of their speaking. I think every time we went down to them, there was like a waiting room right near the stairs and everything, and he will describe that as well and draw it. I draw the dimensions as best he can.
Marcus, Joseph, anything to add?
Marcus will mention how to get down there, the shack in Central Park, the passageway that leads to an elevator that takes you miles down, and then the giant chasm that is apparently has... Were they tended gardens, or they seemed like tended gardens except perverted or something like?
Everything was dead in the gardens. Dead trees, dead plants, bare
Yeah,
dirt.
and there was like a really just a smell of death in the air. I mean, Marcus has Auspex, so everything is a little bit more vivid to him.
Joseph will concentrate mostly on making sure that understands the way the elevator's set up, the stairs are set up, the handprint, and then a multi-digit password with the little things pressing the buttons way too quick, and then as accurate as they can, description on the actual layout of the house.
Was the elevator, this stairwell in Central Park, the only means by which you three entered and exited the domain?
Joseph will nod.
Byron will concur, say yes.
Who or what entered this password to access the elevator?
Sevalod's school did once. I can't recall his name.
Dmitri Prishu.
And
That... Go ahead.
and didn't his little Oh, I forget what they call them. The little flesh.
Shalakta?
Yeah, that thing.
Would he know that in character, or would he just know that it's a flesh-crafted ghoul?
I don't know what he'd know in character. He'd just know it's flesh crafted. That's about it. That's what I'm sure he'd know. But yeah.
Marcus has 2 death cults, so he might be able to roll something to know about it, but whatever.
If all else fails, we can just describe it, and I'm pretty sure the High Regent will know what it is anyway.
Yeah. The High Regent will actually smile a bit at the mention of the Revenant. Ah, yes. Mr. Patriciu. That icy cold smile on her severe face. We're speaking with him now.
Byron would glance say, "Are you now?" Interesting.
To be fair, the man is kind of stands out.
It
And from what I can tell, he's the one that Vicephalon sends to the surface more often than not.
It seems that the Revenant has gained some measure of arrogance when dealing with anyone who is not his master. We have endeavored to illustrate the faulty conclusions he has drawn over the several hundred years of his existence.
Byron will say, "Well, if you've seen what Sevalod does to Dmitri for making simple mistakes, you might have a very good insight why he acts the way he does. It is horrendous."
She nods. How long has it been since you've had contact with Sevalod?
Over a month. This is me. I don't really know exactly how to have a character, but I think it's been over a month, correct?
Definitely been over a month.
It's been over a month since we've last been in contact with him.
And the three of you got in contact through the first time, from what I heard from Eugenio, from his ghoul visiting you. The other time, phone call?
Yes, I believe that was the order of events.
She ends up actually plopping back down, her feet dangling as she sits down on one of the desk full of papers and what have you. She ends up looking at the three of you. And please tell me, it is an interesting situation when an individual vampire, much less a coterie, agrees to follow a revenant into the domain of his Zamitzi master. You all...
We didn't know until we were going down until we were already down the elevator. We didn't know until we first saw him what he was. We were just told that he had some blackmail on us.
Oh, it wasn't. I don't think he had. Did he mention the blackmail? I think he said that he had information about Leslie Sutter.
He mentioned the disc. He sent us the disc, and that was blackmail. If he didn't actually call it blackmail, that's what it was. So.
Yes, Byron will say, "Well, he mentioned that he had some information about a possible breach of the Masquerade that he would make public to mortals if we did not. He implied that it would be made public if we did not follow this person. We did not know who it was until we arrived at the shack in Central Park, and only then did we start to wonder what was going on. We just wanted to clear it up before it became a huge mess for all kindred around the city.
She looks at the three of you with a neutral expression, glances over the Archon. The Archon, for his part, shrugs at her. She looks back at the three of you and says, I see. You three should certainly count your blessings, then, to have waltzed into the domain of a Zamitzi fiend, a fleshcrafter, and to have returned with seemingly no alterations on your parts. It gives you all a glance over, perhaps for show. And what did he want in exchange? For this blackmail?
Cutter.
He wanted the supposed thin blood Leslie Cutter.
Ah, yes. Leslie Cutter. The High Regent ends up focusing her eyes again on Theo. This in turn is met with a stare back from Theo. They hold it for several seconds. There's an awkward silence. She turns to focus on the three of you. No matter. Well, if that's all the information that you can recall or find pertinent, certainly this will be of use. She sort of tilts her head. I don't suppose the three of you have any interest in another encounter with them, do you?
Byron is, if he wasn't already looking at her, he is going to look at her and noticeably be a little afraid. I mean, all the blood would have gone out of his face if he had been flushed to begin with. He's like, if you think it'll help, I suppose, but I'll tell you straight up, I do not want to go back down there if I can help it.
Only if I have the firepower enough to kill him.
The cold smile reappears. Well, that won't be necessary. We will take care of this matter ourselves. However, thank you very much for making an appearance and sharing what you know. Truly, what you have experienced is not quite the safest course of action, but an informative one all the same. And stops, and I don't suppose the three of you have any idea what happened to or with Kadir, do you? After all, it seems as if you were involved in that circumstance as well.
Byron will nod and said, well, we were present for Kadir being taken. I'm not sure what happened after we left, but he apparently was following us obfuscated, and Sevlod saw right through it and just, I don't know what power he used, but Kadir just collapsed. I mean, it just broke his mind right in front of us, and he started blubbering on the floor, and that was the state he was in when we left.
And this weird fleshy snowman. Apparently the three of you have also had experience with that, too, and I hear even defeated it. She gives an appraising look at Byron.
Yes, we did have a run-in, and it was nearly the end of us all. I got very lucky at the end, very lucky.
Although we don't believe that was something that was involved Cephalon at the time, I still don't believe it was his thing. I could be wrong. I don't intend to know what the fucking crafted crazy asshole is thinking.
The High Regent lifts a brow at Marcos. What causes you to suspect that it was not the vile creation of Sevlon?
When we were, I think I've already explained this like to Eugenio before, but when we were down there, we talked to him, and then we mentioned the Ouroboros sign that's been seen around here with like the Dragon Metro Company.
And the lasers.
Yeah, and he seemed to be interested in it, not like he was like something that he had done. He was interested in who had done it, and he seemed to get mad at Dimitri about something. I'm misremembering things out of character, but
He got mad at Dimitri because the disc was corrupted.
Yeah, but the lasers and the things that seem to have been connected to the snowman, like the fog, he seemed interested in, like like it was something that he didn't know about. And I'll be saying that to the High Regent.
She ends up scratching her chin and tilting her head, and she says aloud, "We have heard that feelers have been put out, not just with Sevalod, but apparently there is some interest in the disappearance of Lambak Ruthen, who unfortunately participated in the Battle of New York, but has since vanished. Certainly, although he is an enemy, we have considerable interest in the whereabouts of a Methuselah as well. In spite of cowardice, he still exhibits power all the same." Interesting.
oh, I guess that reminds me. The Cephalad seemed to be looking for Lombok Rusin.
That only confirms that. She trails off. She sort of shakes her head, looks at the three of you. "Well, you have three all been a great help. If there is something that is required, you can perhaps find it with the Tremere." The cold smile has returned. It's possible this might be a Tremere opportunity at offering you a shot at a favor.
Byron will nod
What
his
what
head
kind
and
of are we talking about here? Are we talking like the favor to learn thaumaturgy? Because out of character, that's awesome. In character, no.
Would you like to attempt to ask the High Regent to learn thaumaturgy from the Tremere?
just wait a second.
I'll
Let me
let
get
Byron-
ready to
Byron
backpedal
ask that.
Byron.
Byron, ask the lady to learn thaumaturgy.
In character, Joseph's currently weighing who he dislikes more, Sevalod or the Tremere.
Sevalod.
It's a little bit closer than you'd think.
Yeah, not for Byron. Byron, no.
All the same, she ends up politely nodding to you if no one has any immediate response, and she'll leave.
Oh
Hey,
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
By-
if
By-
Byron managed to get taught thaumaturgy, then he would have the possibility of knowing thaumaturgy and vicissitude.
Yeah. Byron, after she mentioned, will nod and say, of course, glad we could help. If there's anything else you need, I'm sure you know how to get in touch with us.
The smile remains on her face. She politely nods and walks out, leaving you three with the Archon. All right. Now it's time to give you guys a cliffhanger as we shift focus on David Green.
Should I move?
Cool.
Where is there? Is there like a new map, or is it just like another area in the blackness?
It's a new map. Not new. You've seen it before. David Green, you arrive at Madison Square Garden without incident, actually, and you end up arriving just 2-3 minutes shy of midnight. The subway ended up being a bit too slow for your liking, perhaps due to the various natural events that have occurred in the city. All the same, you do definitely make it, and you can definitely hear a large banter and clamoring of noise, which would suggest that one of the main hall areas of Madison Square Garden would be where the event is to take place. And as say David approaches the open doors and takes a look inside, my goodness, it definitely seems as if at least 1/5 of all the kindred in the entire New York City metropolitan area are here for this. David can't exactly put a name on the face of everyone, but there is some Nosferatu within this seating area, as well as Toreador, a few Malkavians, a Ventrue, and especially Valentine over there, the Keeper of Elysium, and it's predominantly Bruges. Let's say far on the other side, who appears to already have begun the process of speaking, is it's a woman. The only thing preventing the woman before you behind the podium in a little elevated area from being truly beautiful is the corneal affection that afflicted her right eye just before she was embraced. You know, even though you've never seen her, that she usually covers that eye with a patch, but she currently has it lifted off her face. For whatever reason. You can't possibly. You don't know. Embraced in her late 20s, Marlena had begun to show a world wariness that will now remain with her for the rest of her unlife. She has thick brown hair and a short style atop her athletic body, a fashion that makes her look almost childlike. Currently, she is wearing casual, functional clothes, a gray shirt, leather jacket, and dark jeans. Despite her slight frame, she has a powerful voice, one that speaks with passion. It's also worth noting that, you don't think that any of these people here in attendance would be anarchs? The only person who might suggest as such would be Duke Wiley himself, who has taken a position and sort of flanking, his back against the wall behind Marlena.
Well, David's going to try to find a seat where he's got a good view of everything, but isn't too far in the back.
Right. There ends up only being 4 empty seats, but certainly if David so wishes, he could even stand against, the back wall. He doesn't have to take a seat.
No, he'll take a seat.
She ends up... What?
I was just going to comment that David decides to sit surrounded by Toreadors.
There's 2 Bruges in front.
He's fine. Move on.
And I'm the best looking of all of them. Hey, yo.
Certainly, David does end up attracting some attention, as Nosferatu are wont to do whenever they attend social events, but the primary attention and focus seems to be on Marlena, who has dipped into an impassioned sort of speech covering a whole glorious sweep in state of affairs. I have not exactly prepared, say, an hour-long speech for Marlena to deliver here. Covering the basics, though, David's certainly familiar with how these speeches can tend to go, and he's a fucking vampire. He's seen a few in his day. She's not the most educated speaker. Rather, she seems to be playing to her demographic. In this case, it ends up being a coarse and blunt speech, peppered with improper English, if you will. She definitely has a great appeal and rapport going with the kindred in attendance, who almost entirely themselves would definitely be neonates. Many of whom have just recently moved into the city over the past few months. None of them are as established as even, say, David Green, who, is part of a coterie that controls an entire neighborhood in Queens. You're likely looking at vampires here who just, their domains and hunting grounds end up just being like their little habitats, like their an apartment, or, a hole in a sewer, like the area immediately surrounding that. So certainly, while Carter Vanderweyden appeals more to the Ancilla and the Elders, who have grand domains, and a prince, a prince candidate who's all about, say, having these Ancillian Elders maintaining their vast domains and their, acquisitions they already have, she appeals more to the sense of everyone, especially the Nosferatu included, of, uniting all the kindred together, that there's more than enough space here in New York City to go around. I mean, with over 20 million people, to try as hard as, 250 kindred might, there's no way they could feed on every single person here. There's more than enough to go around. And it's just that, kindred end up being petulant and foolish, and, while territorial's all fine and well, they end up squabbling and bickering over pieces when there's so much to go around. And this is wildly appealing. Of course, the Bruja in particular. Naturally, stereotypes have it that every Bruja has his own independent view of how a situation should be, and they might not all entirely agree with her. As a matter of fact, probably none of them entirely agree with her. Rather, it's sort of the sentiment of, she's the best representative of them, especially since, their last major representative was Theo Bell, and apparently he did not have a single damn lick of interest in being the Prince of New York City. He was okay with being an Archon. There are only two people who end up sort of stoically watching Marlena over the course of this hour. That ends up being Valentine, the Keeper of Elysium, who's watching with a neutral expression, and Duke Wiley, for his part, who still has that same, observant look, the eyes always flickering to and fro, as if he is eternally prepared for something to happen, just so he could do something about it. David certainly would have heard the stories of how when Kadir went into a frenzy and launched himself at Gerard, Duke Wiley flung himself at Kadir with a stake, one-shotted him.
And David, for his part, would be watching the whole thing with a neutral, inquisitive expression rather than getting caught up in the emotion of it.
Certainly there is quite a lot of emotion to go around, and David will sort of end up finding himself be one of the exceptions who doesn't get wrapped up in the whole thing. He's one of the few who he might not stand up, for wild applause or hooting and hollering and cheering, and if David ends up doing that, he'll definitely stick out. There are many people who end up, pounding their chairs into the floor, as she does a great job of appealing to what these kindred care about the most. While David is currently enduring an inspiring Bruja speech, you folks in the private box with the Archon.
Yeah?
The noise of the event, especially in the otherwise fairly quiet Madison Square Garden, is definitely managing to filter up to the box. You can hear loud and passioned, it's muffled so you can't make out words, but, there's one strong voice, wah, 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 and then, woo!
Wait, were you Charlie Brown all of a sudden?
Sure. Marlena's actually the Peanuts teacher.
Byron will mutter under his breath, say, "Well, looks like the Kindred Socialist Party is getting worked up."
Remind me to smack Byron when we get out of here.
Why not now?
I'm not going to smack him in front of Theo Bell.
Oh, strange. That's exactly what Joseph was thinking.
Maybe we'll slap him at the same time.
Theo, shortly after the High Regent leaves, gestures back to the chairs. And his voice is a little bit calmer, but he looks naturally still unamused when he says, "Please send." He sits back down, and for the first time, his facial features soften. I heard that there was an item that was entrusted to Kadir, one that he was apparently going to be giving the Tremere, and nothing ever came of that. Along with all the other things that have happened, what do the three of you know of this item?
Marcus is gonna say, I really don't know that much about it. The people who would know more about it are Byron and Joseph over here.
Yeah, Byron will look to Joseph, and if Joseph makes no move to describe it, Byron will, since he was the one that touched it the most. Say it was a
Gross.
what now?
You touched the most. Gross.
Yeah, it was a small stone, just void black almost, and oozed blood. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't it get warm when it came in contact with hurt or vampires in torpor?
Yeah.
When it came near them, even.
Yeah, that's what I meant anyway. And during the fight with the snowfucker, both Marcus and David were put into torpor, and it brought them back from torpor immediately. And Byron will describe what happened with that, how he placed it on the chest and it was absorbed into them and they had to spit it out of their mouths. And other than that, that's all that we know about it. Byron, I don't know if you told Byron, but of course it killed that plant too. Joseph might want to mention that.
Yeah, the everlasting gobstomper killed plant too.